Hey guys, Gus here with YourSpaceTV. Thanks for coming along for another video. And today we're going to talk about the Artemis rocket, the SLS, that's sitting on launch pad 39B now. They've been going through their dress rehearsal and their testing, and it has not gone well for SLS at all. The first failure was a pad failure, and they couldn't load the propellant into the rocket, so they fixed that at the pad. But now they're having issues with the valves to the actual rocket itself, and they still are not able to load the propellant into the rocket. The rehearsal itself, they're supposed to go through the whole entire countdown, from loading the propellant to T-minus 10 seconds. And they can't even start the countdown within hours without a failure happening on the pad. If the valve is stuck on the rocket itself and it's something that they can't fix on the pad, then they're gonna have to roll it back to be able to fix that problem. So bummer for all the people that are working on SLS. So I want to take you guys to see the rocket up close, talk about the different stages, who built them, why are they there, what exactly does each stage do. I think that'll be pretty cool, and it's a beautiful day for it. Artemis and SLS is the first exploration class rocket that we've had since Apollo. The last time that a rocket this large left the vehicle assembly building was back in 1972 for Apollo 17. And then back in 1973, they modified the Saturn V rocket for Skylab. That was the largest rocket ever built since now SLS. I can never get enough rocket viewing of SLS. So stick around, because in this video, we're gonna be talking Artemis SLS 101. So we're about 10 minutes away from Playa Linda, and I'll catch you over there. I do love this rocket. The SLS rocket actually has a name. It's the Block 1. I have no idea why they call it the Block 1, but perhaps because this mission has been blocked for 2 years already. They have taken their time and they've taken our money to build this thing. And it could still cost more if things don't go as planned. Thanks, Congress. They screwed up by not making this rocket reusable. They pretty much use parts and ideas from the space shuttle. That's why it looks so similar. It's like having a classic car, spending $100,000 just to make it look and drive like a Mercedes-Benz. I don't know anybody that would waste their money to do that, do you? The space shuttle, on the other hand, cost $450 million to launch. What a waste of billions of dollars. With just one SpaceX Starship Super Heavy, launches about $10 million. And it's reusable. Artemis 1 is scheduled to lift off hopefully in June of this year. It will pretty much be a redo of the Apollo 8 mission that circled around the moon. Only this time it's going to go further around the moon, making it the furthest humans have ever gone before. Artemis 1 won't have a crew on board. It will have sensors that they can detect exactly what the crew would feel on this mission and prepare them for Artemis 2, which is scheduled for 2024. Yeah, that's right, 2024. Didn't you all notice that when Artemis rolled out from the vehicle assembly building, Elon Musk stacked his Starship Super Heavy too? This time they stacked it and it took half the time that it did the first time they stacked it. Pretty sure Elon was saying, SLS, well, that's kind of big. That's cute. How long is that going to be before it takes off? Oh, it just takes 11 hours to get to the pad? Oh, jeez. That being said, let's take a closer look at this rocket. Starting at the bottom, at the white section, this section is called the MPSVC, the Main Propulsion System Valve Control Section. Each engine is only the size of a car, and it has 4 of them. Each engine throws 500 pounds of thrust, with 4 equaling 2 million pounds of thrust. At ignition, hot gases will exit the bell housing at 13 times the speed of sound. That's fast enough to go to New York to LA in just 15 minutes. It's the strongest engine ever built. These engines will burn for about 8.5 minutes during launch. The RS-25 engines have about 35 components that are 3D printed. And the bell housing is actually made out of 4 different sections, not like multiple layers like most engines are. So that small white section will play a major role in taking us back to the moon. The darker orange section, the largest section, called the core section. It's a custom first-time build, and it holds liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen to fuel the RS-25 engines. It's practically the external tank from the space shuttle. This section was built in New Orleans. This section detaches in space and falls back into the Earth, burning in our atmosphere. And I really hope they put a camera on that, because that would be really cool to actually see. The orange coloration is from the foam material that it's made out of. The foam is extremely lightweight. The longer the booster stays outside, the sun actually tans the booster and it becomes a darker orange, like you see now. Next are the 2 large solid rocket boosters on each side. These look awesome, don't they? I love the fact that they put the 1980s retro iconic worm NASA logo on the side. These SRB are the largest, most powerful boosters ever built for flight. Similar to the space shuttle, but they are taller. They stand at 240 feet, about 17 stories tall. The shuttle's SRBs were only about 13 stories tall. These are built in 5 stages and land with parachutes in the Atlantic Ocean to be recovered by the marine operations. They will burn 6 tons of solid propellant in just 1 second, and they will produce 3.6 million pounds of thrust each. That's about 14 747 jumbo commercial airliners. Together, it's about 75% of SLS's power. And you combine that with the RS-25 engines, and this baby's gonna have 8.8 million pounds of thrust. That's 15% more than the Saturn V rocket. At the top of the core stage is another orange cone-shaped area. This is the adapter. This section was built at Marshall Space Flight Center in Alabama. This section is mostly electronics. It also has 2 cameras to capture the footage of the stage separation. It also works as a protective section to the Orion capsule from the core stage. If anything happens in flight to the core stage and it ends up blowing up, we can still salvage the Orion, hopefully without any damage. Above that is a small white section with the American flag. This section is a propulsion stage. This is the stage that has the engine to take Orion further into space. It generates 25,000 pounds of thrust. It's pretty much a second stage of a ULA Delta IV rocket. The skinny white ring just below Orion is the Orion stage adapter. This is a cool section. In this small area, Artemis 1 will carry 13 small CubeSats on brackets. Each satellite will randomly deploy during the journey to the moon. They will gather data for future exploration missions. Some will go to orbit around the moon, and some will shoot to an asteroid. The last ones will study space weather at different locations in deep space. The next section is the Orion capsule, the command module. This section will see some changes in Artemis 2 and Artemis 3. Right now, Artemis 1, Block 1, will not have an EUS, Exploration Upper Stage. It will be installed on Artemis 3 when we actually go to land on the moon. In this new section of Orion, it will be able to send about 100,000 pounds to the moon, including Orion, the 4 crew members, fuel, the payloads that they need to land, and much more. This section is in its final stage right now in Huntsville, Alabama. The Orion capsule will hold 4 trained astronauts. Orion was built by Lockheed Martin, while the service module was built by ESA. Orion is much roomier than Apollo and made for longer duration in space. The reason for this is because Orion will have solar panels for power, rather than relying on fuel cells like Apollo did. It will fly 40,000 miles past the moon. It will be the furthest spacecraft have ever gone in history. Artemis 1 will be a 3-week mission, testing propulsion, power cooling, navigation, communication systems, and much more. More importantly, the test of the heat shield when it comes engulfed back into Earth. It will come faster and hotter than any capsule ever made. What a ride that's gonna feel like. I can't wait to see that. Hopefully they have cameras on board the capsule so we can see it for ourselves. But I'm sure the camera's live feed will be interrupted though. And finally, all the way in the top is the abort launch system, the ALS. This is made to save the crew if any major malfunction happens. Once launched, carrying the Orion capsule and the astronauts with the small rocket on top, it will launch away from the SLS rocket, and it will gain more than 2 miles in altitude in just 15 seconds. Then, in about 43,000 feet, the thrusters will fire to straighten Orion to its descending position, and then it will detach, dropping Orion straight down, and Orion will deploy its parachutes for a smooth 17 miles per hour landing in the ocean. Let's just hope we don't get to see ALS deploy during the launch. If we see any major disaster go on with SLS, I'm sure it will be the end of the program. SLS and Artemis will be no more. I hope that all these delays since 2016 will show a flawless mission to all of us, even though I believe the program will be short-lived due to the cost of the whole thing. I'm hoping for about 6 launches, but as of now, only 3 are scheduled. It all comes down to our American government. So that's it. I hope I covered everything for you about SLS, Block 1, and Artemis. It's truly a magnificent vehicle. I thank every single human being all over the world for making this happen. You are the innovators, the people that inspire new generations that live on this planet to continue to look up and reach for the stars, and to show proof that if it can be built, it will be built. And I am extremely honored I live in a country that is possible. Because up there, it's your space. God bless you all. Go SLS, go Artemis.